My name is Joe Prim and I am the host of Prepare.Defend.Lead. In this episode, we are going to talk about the luxury of being the lone wolf. I'll catch you on the other side of the intro.
The comfort and distractions of today collide to indulge our desires and provide a slow death by apathy. A superior primitive ethos exists. Prepare for tomorrow. Defend what you value and lead those you love. This mindset is the foundation of living an authentic life as a bold, disciplined man resolute in your mission. Prepare, defend, lead. Your mission, own it.
All right, here we go. Once again, welcome back to PDL. If this is your first time listening, thanks for joining us. If you have been around for a while, thanks for staying loyal. Thanks for sticking around, and I hope I bring you another quality episode of PDL. As I've been saying now for weeks, because I want us, and I'm speaking to myself as well, but we need to come to the complete realization that no one is coming to save you. The big problem that we're going to talk about in this episode today is that most of you have no one you trust, no one to help you, no one to hold you to a standard, and no one to talk to. It is imperative as we look around the landscape of what is going on in our country, what is going on in our world today. And I warned all of you early last year when I did an episode called The Paradigm Shift and said that we will never go back to normal again. There will never be the normal that we used to live by, that we were accustomed to, that we took for granted. And as we look around ourselves today and we see what is going on, we realize that there's always been I look at it as this teeter-totter, right? And you have different pieces being moved around this teeter-totter on a regular basis. But the moment this teeter-totter becomes unbalanced, chaos ensues. So as these pieces move around on this teeter-totter and move back and forth and to and fro and start to lean one way, things are shifted back in a different direction in order to maintain some sort of balance. This teeter-totter right now is shaking and wobbling more than it has ever in my lifetime wobbled. And I believe that the wrong shift in the wrong direction, a miscalculation by the wrong person or wrong group of people, and this teeter-totter is going to break one way or break the other way, and chaos is going to ensue. And this is why I am doing this episode about being the lone wolf. We have lived through most of our lives with the luxury of being able to maintain a standard of living, to maintain a standard of lifestyle, and the luxury of being a lone wolf. You see, most of us have this glorified view of the lone wolf, but the reality is in the wild, that does not exist. Being kicked out of the pack is a death sentence. Sure, as a lone wolf, you may be able to join another pack if you play your cards right and everything goes your direction. You may survive for a while if there's plenty of food to eat and you are healthy. But the reality is, it is a death sentence, and you will not last long in this new world alone. And not only you being alone, but the consequences of that won't just affect you. You are just the first big domino, right? Because the consequences of this lone wolf living can affect your wife and your children your extended family in tremendous ways that we cannot completely foresee at this time. That's why we need to work our butts off to get people around us. And as I said before, and I'll probably repeat again, we no longer have the luxury of living as a lone wolf. Now, I want to go over a few reasons why I believe it is so important that we live our lives with other people that we've built strong relationships with other people that we can trust, with other people that are stronger than us. And at the same time that we try to go in a direction or build these tighter relationships or build or continue to firm up the foundations of the relationships that we have, it's also, I believe, important that at this time we begin to get rid of some of the dead weight. Some of the people that are only hanging around because they think they can get something from you. Some of the people that are dragging you down. Some of the people that are whispering the lies in your ears that are holding you back. We have a narrow window of time. We don't know how long it's going to be. This needs to be one of your top priorities. And I'm going to go through 3 reasons why I believe it is so important. When this podcast first started, it was one of the cornerstones, I should say, of Ever Vigilant. One of the cornerstones was the belief in building brotherhood. And I spoke often on that and had guests on to speak about brotherhood and why it was so important, why it was detrimental to their lives to live out a life for a purpose that was bigger than themselves because they had others that were a part of their family, their tribe, their brotherhood. And we as men, for some reason, get caught up now in our work and in our family. And I firmly believe that family becomes more of an excuse than a reason why we don't commit to building brotherhood, why we don't commit to building these relationships. You know, as boys, we did. If you lived in a neighborhood, right, we had groups of boys that we ran with. And we each played an important role in that group. And one of the guys in that group might have just been the fastest. And one guy in the group was the best tree climber. And one guy in the group always told the funniest jokes. And one guy, maybe what he contributed was his mom always had fresh cookies. But as we built these brotherhoods, as we built these groups of guys, of young boys that we ran with, that we trusted, that we camped out with, that we built forts with, that we ran around the neighborhood with, we, at that point, understood the necessity and the reality of what that wolf pack looks like. And you'll see hidden away in so much of what I do is that wolf. And whether it be the heraldic wolf that's on the cover of my book or wolves planted in different areas around through what I have done with Ever Vigilant and PDL, it's because of to me, the iconic thought, the iconic view of the pack. Not the lone wolf, not the alpha wolf, but the pack, the purpose of the pack, and the reason they're together, the way they work together, the way they feed off of each other, the way they help one another, and the purpose that it brings them. So I'm going to go through 3 reasons here why I think it's so important to build that brotherhood. And when I say build, for some of us, it is a chore. It is a task. For somebody like me that's a true introvert, it takes a lot of effort to build those relationships, to talk to people, to meet new people, to extend my group outside of my comfort zone. But as I have come down to Texas and settled into our new place up here in Burnett County, I have been working very hard to solidify a very deep foundation with those people that I have relationships with, and to extend that out to start to include other people and bring other people into that fold, because I believe it's detrimental to us and our survival moving forward. So number one reason I have here is teaching and learning. We need to share our experience, to share our story of our lives. There is purpose beyond us experiencing the things we've experienced. There is purpose beyond us just going through the hard times, going through the motions. When we learn the lessons that get us through to the other side, we, I believe, as human beings, as men, are obligated to share those lessons and spread them to other people, that maybe we can encourage them, that maybe we can shorten the times of difficulty for others. And of course, it should be first and foremost that we make sure that we share those lessons that we learned with our sons and with our grandsons, so that they may learn from our experience and where we've been and what we've done and who we've met and how we made it, how we survived, how we are here today. But I also believe that it's for no small reason that when we get together as groups of men and we begin to tell stories and we begin to build these relationships, there is a reason why at some point in the conversation, and it's always there in a solid foundational building conversation, where the war wounds come up. Well, I had this accident and this happened to me. I cut my arm here and this happened to me. I was in this car wreck and this happened to me. This tragic thing happened to me and I survived. And we begin to tell stories of survival. We begin to share stories of difficult times that we went through. We begin to show our scars and talk about how many stitches it took to sew us back together. I've been in so many of those conversations because inevitably that part of the conversation always veers off in that sort of a direction. Why? Because this is part of the way we have functioned from the day we were created. We share our story. And that story teaches other people so that they can skip out on some of the hardship, perhaps. Maybe they don't go down a path or follow down a road because of our warning story. Or maybe they hit a rough patch and think back to something that you went through and realize, you know what, if he made it through that, I know I can make it through this. So we share those stories. But that goes the other way as well, right? We listen to the stories that others are telling us, because those stories that they're telling us can save us hardship, can save us difficult times, can help us perhaps through our marriage, can help us as we father our children, can help us as we lead in our community, or can help us as we grow and strengthen our business. So teaching and learning is one reason why I believe it is imperative for us to build a strong brotherhood. Number 2, standards, and I have standards/trust. I have gone to many churches, and I have gone to church most of my life. And I think one of the most ridiculous things that I have seen in churches is accountability groups. Because in my experience, the way that I see things, they have things backwards. Trust and respect in a relationship must be built before anybody will allow you to hold them accountable. Let me say that again. There must be a level of trust and there must be a level of respect for somebody before you will allow them to hold you accountable. You see, once again, this is a protective mechanism. This goes way back from the beginning of our creation as men. We do not share things with other men that could be perceived as a weakness or could be leveraged to hurt us or take advantage of us, unless we respect or trust the person with whom we're going to share that information. So do I think it's wrong or screwed up to have accountability or to have other people to hold you a standard? No. But before that can happen, there must be trust, there must be respect, and there must be loyalty that you know that person has your best interests in mind. And the reality is, when you have that kind of a relationship with somebody, when you have that kind of a friendship, that kind of bond with somebody else, and they point something out, it's not a big deal. And why is it not a big deal? Because it's just part of the conversation. It's part of having that relationship. If somebody calls you out because you're not doing something right, or they think that you're making a mistake, or they think that you're misunderstanding something, but it's somebody that you trust, it's a way different conversation, isn't it? A way different conversation when somebody points that out from that point of respect and trust than from somebody that's just telling you what to do and how you're going to do it. And this goes the other way for those that think that it's their responsibility to hold somebody accountable that they have not taken the time, have not put in the efforts or energy in order to build that relationship with. In my opinion, who do you think you are to hold somebody accountable that you don't have a relationship with? Build that relationship. Build a friendship. Take the time and efforts and energy that costs, that must be sacrificed in order to make that something worthwhile, and then that person will listen to you, and then you will listen to them. So that's reason number 2 why I believe it is imperative at this time that we work hard to build relationships and build brotherhood now. And number 3 is serving and helping. One of the first people that I met when I got down here to Texas did a huge favor for me. And we had somewhat of a relationship before that. We knew each other and talked once or twice. But this guy did a huge favor for me and pulled me out of what would have been a very, very tough spot. But out of that favor that he did for me has grown a great friendship. A relationship where there is a metric ton of trust and loyalty and respect. And when we get together and have conversations, they are the type of conversations that you ponder 2, 3, 4 days later and are thinking about what was said and how it was said and why it was said and where things go from there in a positive way. But one thing, after he did this tremendous favor for me, was he asked me to help him wrangle up his livestock in the fall in order to help clip the hooves of the goats and sheep and give them some medicine. And seeing as I had goats on our homestead there in Illinois, it has never been much of a favor in my mind. It's actually been enjoyable to go out and wrangle up those goats and tackle those goats and hold those goats down while they're getting their hooves trimmed, and something that I enjoy doing, something that especially during that transition phase while we were living in the suburbs and I wasn't sure when or if we would ever get goats or any type of livestock ever again. It was refreshing for me because it brought me back and let me have for a brief moments the experience that I had had for 4 years in Illinois. And for a time, that was very fresh to me. That was still a tremendous sacrifice that we had given up to move down here to Texas. So it was a great time for me to be able to spend some time with the animals, with these goats and sheep that he has, but also served a tremendous help to him, to help him do something and accomplish something that would have been very difficult to do on his own or with his wife or other members of his family. For me, it was a great time to get away, get to know him better, build that relationship. And through that helping, through that serving, you build a bond, you build a relationship. It's interesting, there are some great studies out there that talk about how men build relationships. And they don't build relationships sitting around in a circle in church basement eating donuts. They build relationships and bonds through doing things, through taking action, going on a camping trip, a hike, a hunting trip, playing golf. All these different ways that we have come to do that are because that is how we bond. That is how the "hey, remember when" stories show up, and the "I can't believe that happened," or "I can't believe that we went through that," or "I can't believe that we experienced that." Stories come up over and over and over again. And let me point out one more part of that story about me and that friend, is that I believe it's Benjamin Franklin it might have been in one of his Poor Richard's Almanacs type stories that he printed early, where it talks about the best thing that you can do if you move into a new area, or if somebody moves into a new area or moves into the area near you, is to borrow something from them. And he recommended borrow a tool from them. He said, whether you need it or not, borrow that tool. And he said, return it before you tell them that you said you would return it. And when you return it, make sure it's clean, polished, and sharpened up better than when you received it. And he said, that is a sure way to show that neighbor from the very onset, from the very beginning, that you are trustworthy, that you are a good neighbor, and that you are honest. And this guy, the same way, by doing a big favor for me that helped me out in a pinch where I honestly had very few options, if any. And he helped me out, and in return, I helped him out, and out of that came a very, very solid relationship that will continue to grow for the foreseeable future. He's somebody that I know I can trust when push comes to shove, and somebody that I know has my back, and somebody that, frankly, as we just talked about in the last, in reason number 2, could hold me accountable. If he saw something or didn't like something or wanted to point something out to me, it wouldn't be taken harshly. It wouldn't be taken the wrong way, because we have built a relationship where I know that I can trust him. I respect him. And because of that, him holding me to a standard would be expected. So that is reason number 3 why I believe that it is imperative that you put all of your efforts forward into building new relationships and into solidifying the foundations of the relationships that you have right now. As I've said earlier, we no longer have the luxury of living as lone wolves. The time is quickly approaching when we will look at everything more and more differently as the days go by. I hope that you will take each of those reasons to heart. I could make this podcast a lot longer, and we could go into reasons 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, and 10, and we could keep going for a long time on reasons why. Those are the 3 most important reasons why I think it's important that you build these relationships, but even more pressing is the time involved. So go out, put the energy, put the efforts in. I have a chapter in my book, Open 6 Life-Changing Principles, where I give some suggestions, some ideas on how to build those relationships, who to try to build those relationships with. Go out and seek out the right people to put in your life. Jesus did that when he picked out the disciples. He handpicked each and every one of those men. They weren't thrown to him, here's your small group, lead this group of men. He picked out each of those men individually for what they brought to the table and what he saw them doing moving forward. You can and should do the same. As I said before, no one is coming to save you. Where you are today is the result of your beliefs and the decisions that you made based on those beliefs. My intent here with Prepare.Defend.Lead is to equip you to uncover the hero within. 6 years ago, when I started all this, I was struggling and I was bored with my life. I had surpassed the expectations of family and hit my career goals. From the outside of my life looked great. A beautiful family, healthy children, and a solid reputation that afforded me a lot of freedom. But it felt like Groundhog Day, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I was in my 30s and felt that I had peaked. Was this all there was? Rinse and repeat until retirement? I escaped reality and boredom with playing video games, a lot of video games. And I realized that I could not continue living out this life of apathy, but I had no idea what to do. I started to pray for wisdom and direction, and as I did, I started to see a way forward. Wasn't an easy path, and I realized that I could stay where I was, and everyone around me would be comfortable with that. At the time that I made the decision that I was meant for more, and that I would not settle for mediocrity. I made a decision to move forward down an unclear path. I made a decision to begin work of uncovering the hero within that had been buried under years of lies and expectations of others. I had no idea at that time where this decision would lead or what the consequences would be. But this decision has led to a rural homestead complete with all sorts of animals there in Illinois, hundreds of podcast episodes, a book, moving down to Texas with no house and no job, amazing friends, our awesome new house here in Texas, doing presentations, doing amazing interviews with men that are making an impact, the Overland Project vehicles that I'm working on, and into coaching. All the way these 6 life-changing principles in my book have helped guide me. In fact, the 6 life-changing principles are the reason I started podcasting at all. From the start, I believed that these principles were so powerful that I needed to share them with everybody. So with Prepare, Defend, Lead, I'm doing this podcast. That's number 1. If you get anything out of this podcast, if you think anybody that you know could get something out of this podcast, please share it. Please review it. and please subscribe to it. Those 3 things are the fuel that will keep this podcast moving forward. I have never been more fired up about this mission than I am right now. I have put years of energy, efforts, money, and time into building PDL. And I have never been more certain than I am today that this is what is needed. My book. Check out my book if you haven't already. You can find it on Amazon and get it on Kindle or on paperback. The title is Open, 6 Life-Changing Principles. These are the 6 principles that I used in my own life to turn me into a different direction, to make me and mold me and direct me into who I am today. These 6 principles will change your life. As you implement them, you will begin to see changes in yourself, in the way that you look at things, the way you conduct yourself, the way you listen to other people. And as you begin to change, you will begin to understand how you can become a better father, and they will change you into that better father, and that better husband, that better leader that you want and need to be. If you have read my book, I would really appreciate it if you would leave a review on Amazon. That would help boost where I rank on Amazon and help me get that book out to more people. For me right now at this point, my energy and efforts are going into building a movement here. It makes no sense for us to hold any of this back for ourselves. My vision is to build up a group of men that are different, that are living life different, that are looking at life different, that are listening to life different. And as we grow that, as we grow this idea, and I need your help to do it, and that's why I'm asking for reviews on the podcast and asking for reviews on the book. This can't happen on my own. I can't brute force this thing to move forward. I need your help. And if you think it's a worthy vision, that it's a worthy mission here with the podcast and a worthy mission with the book, I ask for your help in helping me move this vision forward. And then number 3 is my coaching program, Heroes Wanted, where one-on-one we go through the 6 principles. We go through those principles and we personalize the program to you, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and where we really need to push hard to make the changes. But the backbone, once again, the foundation of Heroes Wanted is the 6 principles. You can check out the coaching program at Prepare.Defend.Lead.com. You can check out the book on Amazon.com. Again, Open 6 Life-Changing Principles. And you can check out the podcast, and please review it and listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, thanks for listening. Hold fast, and God bless.